All right, everybody, it's Tara Boothby from Sojourn Psychology, and I am here with the Naked Pastor.
Yeah.
How's that for an intro?
Tell everybody I'm fully clothed.
Right? Are you okay? Good. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. We do wear clothes in our vlog. So, do you like to be called like Naked Pastor or Pastor Naked or Dave? Like, what do people call you?
David. The
David.
nice people call me David. Mean people have other names, but I'll not share that with you right now.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure we all get to enjoy some creativity from our people, right?
Yeah.
Um, So part of why I've asked David to join us here is I really appreciate the Naked Pastor Instagram account. I think it's very thought provoking. David does a lot of very special things on his social media. He has some amazing merchandise, so I'm sporting his toque here. I also actually purchased one of Dave's mugs. Let's see if I can show you
Left
this one.
behind mug. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Left Behind mug. So growing up in a very Christian environment, this is quite a special mug.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So for you, David, I guess what would you say is your message with your IG, with everything that you're doing for people these days?
Um, I think what my underlying first of all, thanks for having me on your show, Tara, and hello everybody out there. It's nice to be with you all. I think underneath everything is my deep urgency to be free. I want to be and feel free, and I know what it's like to be free and have peace of mind, and I want others to experience the same thing. So I'm constantly, my message underneath it all is this drive to help people help themselves be free and to find peace of mind, beyond all of this mayhem that we're experiencing in this life, because I know it can happen. And so I think that's really what underlies it all, underneath all the LGBTQIA inclusivity and feminism and spiritual abuse and theology and all that stuff is me trying to help people help themselves be free.
That's beautiful. And to me, I hear why you would don the name Naked Pastor when you're saying these things.
Yeah, exactly. I took the name on rather naively, probably. But it was back in the day when Naked Chef and the Naked Archaeologist and the Naked Truth and all these things were, popular. So I thought Naked Pastor because I wanted to see people to see behind the scenes. I was a pastor of the church at the time. And I wanted people to see behind the curtain what the life of a real pastor was. So I was going to be completely naked. That is vulnerable, honest, raw, real, transparent. And I wasn't going to hold back or hide anything. I was going to let everybody see what it was really like to be a pastor. So, and then when I left the ministry in 2010, it took a little while because I wasn't a pastor anymore, but I decided to keep the name. The brand was already, Naked Pastor was already very popular. But also I feel like I'm kind of doing that kind of thing, but online now. And so I decided to keep the name.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I mean, I do see and what the emotion that is evoked inside of me when I enjoy your art and enjoy your writing, you're cheeky too. Like I enjoy your sense of humor. There's a definite pastoral quality, this pastoral care thing, in a different sort of deconstructed way, that authenticity.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting, isn't it? Like I deconstructed theologically, and then I left the ministry, and just because of circumstances, left the church. I'll visit a church, but essentially for all purposes, I left the church, um, but I found a way to be spiritual out there, and also how to do what I love doing, and that's helping people, which basically what a pastor should do. I remember hearing a speaker one time talk about the role of a pastor to get people from point A to point B in their spiritual journeys. And I feel like I'm, when he said that, I was like, that's me. That's what I care about. And I think that's what I'm trying to do now, is help people get from their point A to their point B in their spiritual journeys, and empowering them to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the freedom thing, I guess, that you're talking about, is there's a different place that maybe what our experience in a religious environment, especially very religious environment, a rules structure,
Right.
is point A to point B is very different.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for me, your point A to point B is going to look very different than my point A to point B. So I really do believe that you get to decide, Tara, you get to decide how Tara gets to be spiritual, and I get to decide how to be spiritual. And I want to help you do that. And so I'm only here to advocate for you, validate you, encourage you, in any way that I can, because I really do believe the power is within yourself to do it, that you have the strength, the courage, the independence, the autonomy, the agency to be able to accomplish that. And so I'm here to help you do that, not to be your guide or your guru or anything like that, because it's within you to help yourself be how you want to be. Because basically, you're a psychologist, we're all striving to be our deepest, most authentic selves. And really, there's just a lot of junk in the way. And a lot of our work is just weeding out that garden and getting stuff out of the way just so we can blossom where we are. So that's what I try to help people do.
That's amazing. So Dave, I really appreciate what you're saying. And I think, in psychology, there's this term we use for what I hear you describing. We call it bottom up. So a lot of us in our spiritual experience, what feels uncomfortable for me is this top-down approach. Here's the golden standard. Here's your stone tablet, your personal stone tablet.
Right.
But what you're really talking about with freedom and self-acceptance, self-compassion is more of this like coming from inside of me and reaching upward.
Right.
Is how I'm hearing. I don't know how you would say it.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy. My view of spirituality used to be way back in the day, like I grew up, Anglican, Baptist, Pentecostal, you name it, I've been there. Where how we were supposed to be was applied to us, kind of like a label that we needed to live up to. Now I see spirituality as something that's authentically ours, that we need to get in touch with, discover, and embrace and express. So my spirituality is going to look very different than yours. Now, in the church, my experience in the church and many people's experience in the church is that basically we need to fit a template that's been passed on, and we need to somehow fit into that template in order to belong and pass the test. And many more people actually are finding that kills their souls, really, and stunts their growth. So for many people, I would love to see the church come to the place where it decides it's going to let people grow in their own way and provide the space for that. But unfortunately, most people feel they either have to hide their growth or leave in order to continue growing. And I find that unfortunate. But yeah, I like that from the bottom up rather than top down.
Yeah. And what I appreciate, and you've been in the church, it sounds like me forever.
Yeah.
And, long before I was a psychologist, I thought I wasn't allowed to believe in psychology. I thought I wasn't allowed to believe in mental health or, that sort of the shame, prayed away type problem.
Right.
But what you're talking about is actually a marriage between, and I don't mean to use this as a theology phrase, but a marriage between the church and mental health.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the problem with many churches. It's kind of like parents. I remember many years ago when our kids, we have three kids, they're all adults now, 28, 31, and 33. And I remember when they were much younger and living at home, we had people visiting us with their kids, and one evening late, we were having some wine and chatting, and there's like, how do you do it? Your kids, all three of them are so different, and they're just so amazing. Like, they just seem so, their personalities, and you just let them be who they are. And I said, that's it. That's just the trick. I mean, just get out of the way. That's basically a lot of Lisa's and my philosophy, is just get out of their way and let them blossom where they are as they are. And I think that now they're wonderful children. They're our best friends. We love each other. We hang out, and they love us and respect us and appreciate the way we raise them, and all that kind of thing. Of course, we sat them down too before they left home and said, listen, at some point you're going to need to go to therapy over how we raised you, and we're totally okay with that. And but if the church will do the same with its members, look, we trust you with your own growth. We're here to facilitate in any way you need, but we're here for you. And you might go through some crazy adolescent tantrums and all this kind of stuff. You might distrust our authority. You might question everything. And we're okay with that. It's a natural part of our growth. And maybe, even if you get so pissed off with us, you can delete that if you want. If you get so upset with us that you feel you need to leave, we're okay with that too. And if you decide to come back around, we're okay with that too. If more churches had that kind of philosophy, I think we'd see less mass migration from the church right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I really like how you're noticing that. Get out of people's way. So I believe, I'm an attachment specialist. Relationships are dyadic. So there is only, in a spiritual sense, it is only me and God. People say at the end of the day,
right.
When I stroll up to the pearly gates, whatever that actually means, it is just me and God.
Yeah.
Just like everybody else. So we have, I guess, from my experience, and I think what I hear you saying maybe is there can be this crushing experience. It can feel like crushing when there's all these absolute words or truths that people are saying, this is it, this is it. Whereas I wonder, my view, and I'd love to hear your version of this, is I really have come to a place where I say faith is asking questions. I don't have any answers anymore.
Right. Yeah. Like I wrote a whole book on it called Questions Are the Answer.
There you go.
Yeah. And that to me is, questions are really a place where we learn how to abide. We learn to abide there in that place of mystery. It's not, people confuse having questions with ignorance, when really having questions is embracing mystery and being able to live in that space of mystery. In my book, Questions Are the Answers, I talk about three different phases of questions. One is I compared it to a door. One is the closed, like a door. It's like yes or no. Is there heaven or hell? Yes. Am I going to heaven? No. Kind of thing. Yes or no. Then there's the swinging questions where it kind of opens and closes and you're not sure, and it's kind of this mystery, like, is the Bible inspired? Well, what do you mean by inspired? A lot of things are inspired. This song was inspired. Does that mean that the Bible is differently inspired? Like this kind of thing. And then you've got open questions where, is there a God? And you say, well, what does that mean? Is there a God? What do we mean by God? Do we mean your God or their God or my God? And do we mean that we can capture God in a word and with theology, or is God beyond that? And all that kind of thing. So I think our ability to grow through those phases of questions, to come to a place of open question, is where our minds really do grow, and where we can learn to live in mystery and have peace of mind at the same time. Like you can be in that place where you have these existential questions and still have complete peace of mind. That's what we want.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And that fits so well with this idea of like this bottom up view of spirituality where I'll say it takes great faith to doubt. So much of clinical psychology, I know you come along people who've been rattled and who have been told that they're going to hell because of they're just trying to be who they are. And I come alongside of those people too. I come alongside of people who I think are in hell right now.
Yeah.
And it takes great faith to doubt ourselves. It takes great faith to doubt me, and it takes great faith to doubt God.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And that's somehow I see in what you're saying, I hear in what you're saying, that's some of the freedom thing.
Right. Mm-hmm. Like the kind of religion I grew up in, Christianity in the church, and it sounds like you too, was one that didn't trust me. So I was taught to lean not on my own understanding, and that my heart was deceitfully wicked, and that my steps would always go astray and like a sheep, and et cetera, et cetera. And so I was taught never to trust myself and always entrust myself to some authority and to be accountable to someone's oversight. And I was not taught how to depend on myself or trust myself or my own instincts, and to learn how to become independent spiritually and to trust myself, and it's really, really hard for people because when we come out of that kind of religion that is full of distrust, where we're constantly being pushed and pulled in a direction rather than the debris and the weeds and the stones and everything being cleared from around us so that we can just grow, it hurts us. So I really do think, like, the kind of Christianity I grew up in assumed nobody was interested in spiritual things. What I'm seeing is everybody seems to be concerned about the existential things of life, the deep, most important things. And if we just give them space and permission, they'll figure it out. And that's what I've come to conclude now.
I love that.
Yeah, it's to believe like I'm going to let you have the steering wheel of your life. You'll let me have the steering wheel of my life. That doesn't mean we don't use maps or we don't listen to instructions or we don't care about people who've been there, done that, and can teach us some things. That's not what I'm talking about at all. But still, we get to choose those things. That's still in our agency to choose, right? And but we still are the ones at the steering wheel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a beautiful place for religion. Some of religion, Christian religion, Muslim religion, Buddhist, all these things. There's some beautiful, powerful, good truths. Mm-hmm. And I do believe, I am a Christian, so I like the Christian morals. But then there's so much more of this landscape, this spiritual relationship stuff.
Right.
And right. I appreciate when you say existential, because there is this omission oftentimes for us as Christians. We're not really supposed to think about death anxiety, that there's something right. wrong with that. Mm-hmm. But pain is frightening.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I encourage people and validate people and try to empower people to empower themselves. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying, I don't want to be their guru or their teacher or whatever and say, this is what you need to do. This is the template you need to follow. This is either steps you need to take. Really, you with the help of others, of course. I've had spiritual directors. I've talked to gurus and masters and teachers and pastors and priests and you name it. I've been there. But in the end, I get to decide how to be spiritual. And another another dangerous offshoot of this, when we aren't taught to trust ourselves, is that it opens us up for spiritual abuse as well, because we lose touch with our gut, our intuitions, and our sense of dignity, even for some people. And we no longer recognize when we're being violated. So I think it's really important to build people up in their self-trust.
Yeah. And I think that is so much of what I see in your art and your social media. There's a multifacetedness. Did I say that word right? Multifacetedness, whatever. But there's some of your more charcoal and the deeper paintings where, or I would call them paintings, but charcoal art, where there's so much more going on in the visual. And then there's some of your real simple sketches. And then you write these like really profound things, but there's all of these layers. And I'm wondering for you, how do you see using creativity to meet people in all these different places? Because I think you do a lot of different reaches for people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thanks for noticing. Yeah, I do charcoal sketches and watercolor paintings and sort of abstract-y kind of canvas stuff. And then I do my cartoons and images of Christ and Sophia drawings and writing and, a little bit of speaking here and there too, videos on TikTok and whatever. Like I just love creativity. I've been creative ever since I can remember. I watched my dad paint and I just don't ever remember not drawing. And I think it was I started my blog, Naked Pastor, when I was a pastor of a local church not far from here. And I remember one day thinking, why don't I try drawing a cartoon, see, a religious cartoon, see what happens. And I challenged myself to draw a cartoon every day until I ran out of ideas. And I thought I would last maybe a month. And here it's 16 years later and I'm still drawing. So I just love the effectiveness of art. Like I could write a 1,000-word blog post. I wish I could write $1,000 blog post, 1,000-word blog post, and people will just scroll on by or get bored or disagree or whatever. But I draw a cartoon and you see it in one split second and it's done. It's in your head. You can't get rid of it. You can't unsee it. Or my paintings, and I'll have a little meditation on it or something. It's just, they have a way of bypassing our intellectual, rational defenses and getting straight to the heart and to our feelings and emotions, and unlock something there that maybe's been imprisoned for a while and we were unaware of and out of touch with. So yeah, I just love the creative process. I enjoy myself. I enjoy doing it, and I enjoy the response it gets. So I'll just keep on doing it.
Yeah, and I think it shows courage in that we don't have to overcomplicate things and we don't have to look like we have it all together. Right. What I appreciate is sometimes your, just pencil drawings or however you're doing them that are so simple, and I'll think about it all day. I'm like, oh, that meant something, that shifted some energy inside of me.
That's cool. Mm-hmm. I like that.
It's super cool. And your merchandise is fun to scroll through. Like I'm just saying, when I went on your website and I wanted to buy a mug, which I did, I showed my special mug, and I was like, didn't know this mug existed. But when I saw it, it had a profound meaning to me about my own experience with churchism and fear and all these things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so it's like Left Behind mug. What's so funny about that is those all like the Dead of, I forget the names of the ones I watched. Thief in
the Night, Distant Thunder, Image of the Beast.
Yeah, Image of the Beast. Yeah, and then the Left Behind series. Like, they scared me to death. I was terrified. Like, people have no idea. That people dismiss it just because it's religious or whatever, but they scared me to death. I was terrified. And then I draw this mug, Left Behind, because I just saw this image one day in my head. That's kind of funny. And it has a profound effect on some people who've been traumatized by those movies and books, where now whenever they instead of, when you say the words left behind, instead of terrifying them, they get a little chuckle out of it. So it's kind of, I love that I've been able to do that for some people.
Yeah. Yeah. And as far as mental health support or just coming alongside of people in crisis, like that's an example of spiritual abuse. Like I was 8 years old when I watched those movies. That's terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah.
But there is a healing in having this silly little cartoon with a funny little idea. And it's like, oh, I feel really known. And something can shift in a positive way for me. So it's profound too, using creativity, doing what you are created to do, and how it can move things in a very spiritual and psychological way for people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's, I just think it's cool that, I could, like I said, for example, with one of my first LGBTQIA cartoons was Jesus walking with a man hand in hand. They're holding hands, and the man says, "I'm sorry, Jesus, but I think I'm gay." And then Jesus says, "Relax, dude. I already knew that." And I could write a whole book on LGBTQIA inclusion and affirmation and acceptance and love and theology and all this kind of stuff. But I can't tell you how many gay people I've heard from who said that just brought so much comfort to them and encouraged them so much just to see it in a picture, made them cry. And it has actually changed some people's minds, just to see it in an image. Yeah. So yeah, I think that rocks. Yeah.
I totally think that rocks. And it's, as a psychologist, whether I'm sitting with Christian LGBTQ plus or someone who has significant mental health crisis and they're asking about spirituality, often I just notice, I'm like, well, why don't you just invite God's eyes onto you? And that's kind of the same thing as what you're doing with that cartoon. Yeah. It's like there's this higher power, this Jesus guy saying, yeah, you know what? I know you're in hell. I know you're in hell.
Yeah.
I've seen you there. Let's be there and honor that together.
Yeah.
So you talked about freedom, which I appreciate, your message of freedom. But like, what do you think about love? Like, how do you view how we're getting love?
Yeah, I like love. I think love rocks. I love love. I do love love. I love romantic love. Lisa and I, we've been married over 40 years now, and we're more in love every day. And the romance is alive and well. We love our kids. We're loved by our kids. I have a very open concept of love. I think love is indiscriminate. That's why it's compared to grace, which is compared to rain and sun. It's indiscriminate. It's just when it's there, it's everywhere. The verses, God, the sun shines on the just and the unjust, and the rain falls on the just and the unjust. Like it's an indiscriminate. That's just love. That's the deepest understanding of love. Love just is. It's just there. It emanates, and includes everyone in its path. So that's my deepest concept of love, theological love that we're talking about. Some call it agape love, the Greek word agape for, God's love, or the kind of love that's talked about in 1 Corinthians 13, where love never, that whole passage.
Yeah.
It's indiscriminate. And so when people talk about, when people think they need to be lovable in order to be loved, that's not the kind of love you really want. You want the indiscriminate love. You want that love that's like sunshine and like rain. What everybody gets. It's one of my cards I have. Everybody gets some. I've got hearts falling from the sky all over the place, and there's a caption that says everybody gets some. That's love. That's just what love is. It's indiscriminate. That's just the way it is. I'm sorry. if that's bad news for you. But that's just the way true love is. It's indiscriminate. Now we can start talking about romantic love or parenting love or that's all those kinds of things, but those are all offshoots of the love, capital T, capital L, and which I think everybody gets.
Yeah, that sounds terrible. Indiscriminate love. Who would want that? Awful.
Well, you know why some people hate it is because they're no longer special. They think they're no longer special or exclusive, or, well, we've done all this and done all that, and we've met all the requirements. Like, we should get an extra dose. Or I thought I was doing all this in order to be loved or whatever. That's a vastly short-sighted understanding of what true love is. It is indiscriminate.
Mm-hmm. I think that's good. I love that you're using the word indiscriminate, and that rings very true and important. There's some freedom here of not only trying to work with people and just allow them to be who they are, but also to help them to experience love, and then hopefully have a experience of what a relationship with God or Jesus is always, or actually about, I guess, always and actually.
Yeah, well, when I love people, I hope that they can get a sense of an indiscriminate love from me. Like Tara, I don't know you very well. We've just met, but I love you. I saw this cute video the other day of a young woman. She was saying, if you can just hate people without knowing them, then I can say I love you without knowing you. So I thought that was really cute. But like I hope, Tara, that you can feel love from me that it's indiscriminate. That does not mean it doesn't notice your specialty or your uniqueness or your diversity or all that. Like, indiscriminate love also loves diversity, because it's indiscriminate. It doesn't, here's my love, get in the lane. It's not like that. Love is indiscriminate, and you just need to be there. It's where, and it's everywhere. So, and that's why at the same time it loves diversity, because everybody's included.
Yeah, it's and both. It's not one or the other. And
that's right.
It's interesting, and I know we'll start to bring our time to a close here, but I often think about, I heard William Paul Young share this joke of this guy dies and he gets to heaven and he's at the pearly gates, and the angel shows up and says, okay, well, you need 100 points to get in. So the guy starts trying to say, well, I helped out at the soup kitchen, 1 point. I went to church every Sunday, 1 point. Well, I was a pastor, 1 point. He's like, that's only 1 point. And then all of a sudden this other guy rolls up, and it's the guy that owned the pub down the road. And he walks up and the angel says, hey, bro. And he walks right through. And the man at the gate says, well, why does he get to go in? He says, well, he doesn't play this game. and there's this thing about, this, when you say freedom, we can make things so complicated.
Yeah.
But then, or we could say, well, I'm just going to choose to love you. I'm going to choose to love people. I'm going to choose to know that that is the most significant thing.
Yeah. And it's even deeper than that. Like I prefer to say I choose to love, and you're just included. Like, it's just that by default, right? If I say I choose to love you, then it's almost like, Andy or Sue, I'm going to choose to love you. It's almost like you have to overcome some obstacle or whatever, where love just is. And if you're in its path, you're going to be its victim. And that's the way I see that deeper kind of love that we're all looking for and talking around.
Yeah. And I actually love that you use the phrase, we're going to be its victim, but that's a whole other lengthy conversation, but that's true, right? It's that it's consuming. It's an all-consuming truth and power. So you guys, this is amazing. I mean, Naked Pastor, you know, David's stuff is worth looking into. I find it very inspiring. And there's a place to talk about Christianity and psychology, or just spirituality and psychology.
Right.
And I think, you know, if you're not a Christian, just let you know, David and I being able to hold some space to have this conversation is quite important for those people who do identify as Christian.
Hmm.
That there's some stuff here that's good for us to know, and probably for you to know about us. We're all a bunch of hypocrites.
Yeah.
That's my truth. So check out David's stuff on Instagram. I'll put his links all over the place, his website, his merchandise. You don't have to buy anything, but it's really fun to scroll through and see all of the crazy meaningful stuff that he has.
Thank you.
Thank you.